For the past 4 months, I haven't had a working storage server. I'm not sure if you remember this guy from any of my old videos. It's a Dell PowerEdge R210-2, and from all my diagnostics, it looks like the problem's in the motherboard, and I could get a replacement motherboard, but I mean, really, it's such a small server. 8 gigs of RAM, 2 1 terabyte hard drives in a RAID 1 configuration. I mean, come on. I can do way better than this server. So why is this video taking so long to come out? Frankly, being a software engineer is not always the work-life balance they tell you it is. That's number one. Number two is new server chassis take a long time to bake in. I also needed a bunch of drives for this build, and luckily I froze a bunch for my hunt last year. I caught these wild Western Digital red 4 terabyte drives, and the specs are perfect for this build. 256 megabytes of cache. All of these are CMR, or consistent magnetic recording drives. And I won't get into the specifics, but that's great for long-term storage or large things while also being able to handle higher transfer rates. I like to edit off of my storage server, so this is exactly what I'm looking for. I'll also throw in some other drives for good measure, and these two I've been storing under my bed for some time now. These are very simple 2 terabyte drives, but they are specifically designed for compute-intensive workloads. I've also gone through all of my old hardware, and I think I really have a very special build for y'all today. This motherboard is my old gaming PC motherboard. It's not very good. i7-4770, 32 gigs of DDR3, 32 gigabytes. 8 gigabytes, 32 gigabytes. That's pretty cool. Oh, and the CPU cooler, take a look at this, side by side. Get out of the way. All right. Shit. New chassis, board. Do you see that? It's gonna fit. Okay, here she is in all of her glory. So, 2 drives, 2 drives, 3 drives, and then under the power supply, there's 1 drive that I like foam double-sided taped down because, oh boy. So budget plays a major role in this. This isn't one of those like, oh, you push a little thing and the drive pops out the front kind of cases. Not at all. I somehow have stuffed 8 drives into this thing, but it was not easy at all. These things, in this case, the way that this case is designed, and I do have a case very similar to this one, that's a 2U. This is a 3U. It has these little like U-shaped brackets that hold drives. So if I were using an MATX board, the micro ATX, not mini, yeah, it's micro, then I probably could have fit like 2, 3, 4 drives in each one of these U slots, but because this is a standard ATX size and the board kind of goes all the way here, the drive gets in the way. So there's only 2 drives at the very top in both of these clusters. Now the case design, it is what it is. You get what you pay for. This really fit into my budget, and I don't need the fancy drive sleds or anything like that. That being said, it has this separate thing down here that is just the worst design I have ever seen. It's like another U that you put drives into, but the drives go so far back in here that you can't even access the ports. So say to power, say to data, I literally bent the enclosure to get those cables to fit. Otherwise, it just would not happen. So in order to make the profile work with the rest of the case, I put the U enclosure on risers. So I had like these, whatever the American computer screw size is, I'll put it on the screen, I forget, to M3. I had those little standoffs, and I just put those down here to use, and it brings the rack mount up high enough that I can bend the steel, put the cables in, and there's no problems. Some other things to note too, so this power supply, like pretty much all power supplies, only has 2 cables for SATA power. So what I ended up doing is there's an extra Molex connector, and I went Molex to SATA power, and that's what these little banana cables up here are. All of the fans in the front are also powered off of Molex, so there's no PWM control, it's all full bore. And I even replaced this fan with a slightly higher airflow fan, airflow and pressure, because I want there to be a higher pressure area here that kind of moves hotter air out this direction. The CPU cooler will only fit this way on this board for whatever reason, so it has to kind of have this orientation, and the fan pushes air this way, but there's not really a place for it to go, so that pressure is going to help. I also have a 60mm exhaust fan up here that I hope will also help. If you saw the video about 10 gig networking, I kind of set up an ad hoc network between my PC and my storage server. So old server dead, but new server, same card. So this is that 10 gigabit SFP plus card, network interface card that's just going to plug right into my old PC. So let's turn it on and just hope for the best, right? Hope for the best. Remember, kids, never turn on a new PC with the cover on. That's a bad luck, bad luck. All right, moment of truth. Here we go. Ooh, she's a little louder. Let's just pray that the screen comes on. Oh, we got something. It booted, or posted. Something to boot off yet. Spam it. So all the drives are showing up. Here, I'm gonna show you. I've got one is Western Digital, 3, 4, 5 Western Digital, Seagate, Western Digital, Seagate. So that's perfect. I have 6 Western Digitals in here and then the 2 Seagates. So 6 of the NAS drives and then 2 of the compute drives. So it's looking great. Let's go ahead and install TrueNAS, and I'm going to install it on those 2 Seagates. Oh my, it's upside down. Go. Oh. All right, we're getting somewhere. All right, so TrueNAS is installed to the 2 Seagate compute optimized drives. I am going to change the fan in the front because once again, I've chosen a fan that's just way too loud. And I ran it for a little while. I looked at the temps and there's nothing really too concerning, honestly, going on. So I think that a low airflow, low pressure fan in comparison to that one is not going to really do that much harm. So I'm going to change out the fan and I'm going to put it in the rack, and then we're going to continue the configuration from there. All right, here we are. It's been a couple days. It's been quite busy over here, but I'm going to talk about how I configure the server. And here you go. Here it is. Here's where it lives in the grand scheme of things. It looks pretty good. Only thing, I wish it was red. All right, so the first thing that I did was I created a user. This is the user that authenticates to TrueNAS when you're connecting to the storage pool. So the user belongs to the wheel group and it has full read and write access to the pools that I create. Then I actually created the pool and basically just threw all of my 6 4 terabyte Western Digital drives into a RAID Z2 pool. RAID Z2, it uses 2 drives for striping and parity. So in this pool, I can lose any 2 drives and still have all of my data. Altogether, this gives me about 14 terabytes of storage, and I created a pool and I called it Chungus. We'll talk some more about that pool later, but I want to focus on some of the more broad configurations that I went through with. If you saw my video about 10 gig networking between my storage server and my PC, then you'll probably remember this part a little bit. But basically what I had was an ad hoc network. So both of these computers are tied into the router. They can access the internet freely, but they also have a separate direct link between the two of them. And this is called an ad hoc network. This basically allows for an uninterrupted link between my PC and my storage server, so there's no need to go through the router and then back to either one of the computers. In theory, it's a lot faster, but in practice, we'll have to see. TrueNAS is a very RAM-limited system, so I think with 4 times the RAM as my old system, it should be a little faster, but we'll just see what it looks like in practice a little bit later. So both computers are basically set up with 2 links to the internet or to something, and that gets kind of confusing. Windows handles this pretty easily. It just knows that this link that I have is actually to access the internet. I know that my default gateway is the router. The other one it knows to just be some connection. It actually, in the interface, it shows up as no internet, even though it is connected to something. In TrueNAS, it's a little bit different. If you don't manually set this, and because TrueNAS sees that there's 2 locations for internet, it gets confused. So to make sure that TrueNAS actually knows how to get to the internet, I had to go in manually and set my DNS name server and default gateway, just so it knows that one of these links is not like the other. That leads me to my next point. The main reason why I want to be able to connect to the internet is because I want to be able to receive email updates for different things. And the email configuration that I used here, a little confusing at first, but I promise it's very straightforward. In the TrueNAS email settings, I'm basically using one of my Gmail accounts that has 2-factor authentication set up. And when you do 2-factor authentication, you can't simply OAuth into your email. It doesn't work like that, and TrueNAS will fail when I try to do OAuth. So what you do instead is you go into your Google security pane and your dashboard, and you configure an application-specific password. So then you can authenticate manually with the email settings in TrueNAS, and you basically say, okay, this is an SMTP server, the port is 587 for TLS, and the authentication is, here you go, here's the application-specific password. And with that set up, it worked like a charm. It was amazing. I'm mainly using the email notifications for my UPS. So I'll be able to know if the power goes down or if the UPS has to shut off. It's also configured, and here's the cool thing about TrueNAS. There's built-in UPS support in TrueNAS. You just have to kind of select the right driver for the model of UPS here. I have an APC Smart, I don't know. But I eventually set it up to work with one of the drivers. And basically what will happen is when the UPS runs low on battery, if it's ever off wall power, it's going to shut down the TrueNAS server, and it'll also turn off the UPS. I'm not too worried about power down events during the day because I'm usually here and I'll know about it, but at night, if I'm sleeping, I'd want it to be able to safely shut down a server with a ton of spinning drives. I mean, I think that just makes sense for the longevity of the drives and the system. So that's configuration out of the way. Let's talk storage. So I know a big question that'll come up is migration. How did you get the data from your old server into this server? And I didn't. So this was kind of a decision that I had to think about a little bit. Ultimately, the old server was kind of just serving as a backup for my video files. It didn't really have anything else of importance in there. And I also have most of my video files still on my PC. So it kind of just didn't make sense to migrate everything over when I can just copy it from my PC to the server. I mean, it seems simple enough. And to be able to really migrate over from TrueNAS, it's a little tricky. There are several ways to do it, but what I probably would have done is I would have grabbed one of the PCs that I have in my Kubernetes cluster and just temporarily used it as a, old TrueNAS server, and I would put the old drives. In fact, here's one of the old drives. I haven't taken it out of the metal sarcophagus yet, but it's here. It's 1 terabyte drive. So it's also SATA, so it's not a SAS drive. It would just work kind of just plug and play with any kind of SATA connection on any motherboard. So it wouldn't have been that tricky, but it was still a little too much of a hassle. And I just decided that between being really busy with work and everything else, just nah. It's a done deal. The old server is just done. However, this does make a very good case for the 3-2-1 rule of data storage, which is right here on the screen, or maybe here, I don't know. So to round us out, I'm gonna do a little addendum to the networking video I made about the ad hoc network, and I'm gonna test the 2 interfaces. So I'm going to have one network location on my PC mapped to the IP address that it gets from the router through DHCP. And I'm going to have the other link just be the direct connection between the PC and the server. And we're going to see what the file transfer speed is like. I don't imagine it'll be too interesting, but who knows? So here we are. Here is the folder that has all of my files for the TAT2 video. Including, I think, even the final rendered copy. And if we just do a quick properties on this, we have 12.7 gigabytes. So it's a pretty big folder, and we're gonna go in transfer it to Wungus. So more specifically, we're using this Wungus. Wungus is a part of Chungus, by the way. I don't know. So this one is connected with the 10 gig link. So we have the 192.168.100.1. The 100 prefix or 100 section is just the subnet basically that is, yeah. Anyways, you know what, I'm talking too much. Let's just go. All right, that's actually pretty nice. It's fluctuating a little bit. Around 500 megabytes per second, which is about half saturation, but that's still pretty good. All right, let's see what we got. Nice. So let's make sure, and all right, 12.7. It's compressed a little bit with LZ4 compression, but yeah, still 12.7 gigs. Pretty cool. Let's go ahead and go the reverse way. So I'm just going to take this 12.7 gigabyte file and I'm going to just move it into my downloads. And oh, pay no attention to that. I was playing around with the TF2 hit sounds. That's all I have to say about that. Put it in downloads. Now that's pretty insane. That is wonderful. Wow. All right, 1 gigabyte per second, not gigabit, gigabyte. So 8 times 1 gigabit. That's 10 gig for you. 10 gigabit, you can expect that kind of speed. That's fully saturated pretty much. I'm very happy about that. Okay, so we just saw that the 10 gig link is pretty nice. Now, I think it's about time we compare it with the standard link. So this is 1 gigabit network ports from the PC and the TrueNAS server. And this is connecting back to the router. So it's going back to my pfSense firewall, and then it's gonna go from there. So the link is quite a bit longer, and it's fully 1 gigabit capable rather than 10 gigabit capable.
So you can see this is 192.168.1.5 versus 100.1. So it's connected to the same pool.
And let's bring it over. And yeah, so it is saturating the network at this point, but you remember we were getting speeds about like 500 megabytes per second on the other link as compared to this, you know, slightly over 100 megabytes per second, which for a 1 gigabit link, remember 1 gigabit, you basically divide by 8 and you get the, you know, megabytes. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Anyway, yeah, let's let that finish. Let's just, it's almost done. This has taken about like 2-3 minutes as compared to like, I don't even know. It was like 20 seconds with the 10 gig link. Oh my goodness, it's amazing. Anyway, there it is. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna take this, this 12.7 gigabyte folder, and we're gonna just bring it back to the PC. So right back in downloads you go. Yes, not my favorite. Let's see what we've got. So yep, really using up that ZFS cache. CPU utilization is pretty low. The temperatures look also very good. So we're at 43, 44. Not too bad at all. Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna cut this off. This is taking too long. All right, 10 gig wins. That's all you need to know, 10 gig wins. All right, thanks for watching. I know it's been a while since the last video, and it's probably gonna be a while until the next one. You might have noticed this guy up here on my desk. Hold on, there he is. Yeah, so that is a 3D printer. It's my 3D printer, and it doesn't work, and it hasn't worked. I got it from an old friend of mine who had to move out of the city, and it just never worked since I received it from him. Maybe he was just trying to pawn off his trash on me. I don't know. I want to get it working, but it probably is going to require some really hands-on digging into the firmware. And I don't really want to think about that right now, so stay tuned. If I fix it, you can count on a video about it, but if I fix it. For now though, thanks for coming, thanks for staying. I hope you had fun and learned some stuff. And I'm gonna put all of my resources in the description, so if you're doing your own TrueNAS server build, hopefully it'll be easy for you as well. Bye-bye.